Today I'm going to show you our October Stamp Club projects using the Distress Oxide ink pads. You guys are going to love these. They are creamy and they blend so beautifully. So here is card number 1. We're going to create a beautiful sunset background with a moon and stamp that cute little spider. Next up, you're going to learn the Joseph's Coat technique. This is a wowie. This is something that when you give this card to people, they're going to be like, how did you do that? They're going to be stumped. Figure that out. And we're going to use our beautiful new stencil and sponge through that. So really easy, guys, and beautiful blending. So I'm going to start out with this card. And the one thing I learned through trial and error is it matters what kind of cardstock you're going to use these Distress Oxide inks with. I use some cheapy junk white cardstock. Awful blending. It does not blend nicely at all. So the quality of paper you use matters. At least it did when I was playing around with it. So the first thing that we're going to do is create a moon mask. And what I did with that is I just used a circle punch on a full Post-it sticky note. So did you know that? They make Post-it notes that are full sticky. So not just that little strip at the top. The whole thing is sticky. Love it. So place that right about where you want your moon to be. And we're going to use 4 different inks. Mustard seed, spice marmalade, and abandoned coral, and seedless preserves. So we'll work with one at a time. And these little applicator tools are pretty cool. And I was demonstrating at Stamp Club that you change the little tops off of these. A little sponge on a little piece of Velcro. So on the tool is the white nubby Velcro. And when you peel this off, you sometimes may have a tendency to grab the white Velcro part and start lifting that off of the base. Don't do that. It's stapled on there, so that stays put. You want to, when you want to switch out your colors, it grabs hold really strong on that Velcro. So instead of grabbing and then just pulling all the way, work it around the edges, because you could end up ripping off that black surface. So just take a little care when you're changing your little spongy tops. All right, mustard seed is at the bottom. And you can blend, I think, pretty quickly with this. I think it's nice to start out with a little bit of a lighter touch, and then you can always come back and add more with a little heavier hand. Next up is the spice marmalade. A little bit of a lighter touch to begin with. And then you can gradually fill in and apply more pressure. And before I switch to my other colors, I'm going to come back to the yellow and go on in the in-between and just blend that through. So there's no definitive line. Beautiful. All right, next, I'm going to peel that off and come to the abandoned coral. And just go right over that mask for the moon. And my personal preference is I really like a heavier blend, heavier pressure, darker colors. It just makes it look so juicy and vibrant. Love that. All right, I'll switch tops over here. And let me grab that sponge for seedless preserves. I'm going to just spin that around and get the top side. Again, right over that mask. And this is watercolor cardstock that I'm using, by the way, which blends beautifully So don't skimp out on your cardstock when you're using this. Watercolor cardstock is beautiful. Come back to that coral, go over that, and just make it kind of seamless. So pretty. Oh, I love it. I think that looks terrific. So I am happy with that. I am satisfied with that. And now I'm going to pull off this little mask. And there's a big white circle where our mask was. So I'm going to take one of these off, put the yellow back on. How convenient, it's a circle. So what I'm going to do is just pounce in the ink and then just pounce and twist to just fill in that moon. And there can be a little white on the edges. Oh, love it. I think that's really pretty. So there's our card base. All done. All right, next up for the little message here, while I have the yellow, I'm just going to swipe around the edges with the mustard seed yellow. This is one of our new stitch bracket thin cuts. And I will put the orange back on and then just hit the edges with the orange, just to kind of give it a little bit more depth and richness right on the edge. So the center portion is still kind of white. All right, next with the coral color, we're going to take Happy Halloween. So these are great blending inks, but they're just fine for stamping too. Nice and clear, Happy Halloween right in the middle there. And we have this adorable little spider. These little spider webs. Put one up in the corner there and hang her a little. Here's our little spider. Whoops. Isn't he cute? He's adorable. Spider web and one more spider web in that bottom corner. And I am happy with that. So the Distress Oxide inks have more of a pigment feel to them, so it does take a little extra minute to dry. So what you're going to do is put foam tape underneath that and then glue that onto your card wherever you like. And your card base is a basic white card. You have black that is going to cover the whole surface, and then layer with a piece of eggplant purple. And then your beautiful sunset is going to go right over top of that. So the little sparkles up here, do we have black sparkles? No. However, we have lots and lots of clear sparkles, and you've got a black marker. So the new Tri-Blend markers are great. This is one of our old Shinhan alcohol ink markers. You could even use a Sharpie. And you're going to color those little sparkles and then put that on your card wherever you like. So that was card number 1. Gorgeous. So let's move on to card number 2, the Joseph's Coat technique. Oh, you're going to love this. This is beautiful. And I have a little bit of contraband that I'm going to use. These blending brushes. These are kind of new on the scene, and because I only had 2 of these sponge handle tools, I pulled these out so that we weren't all sitting around waiting for them at Stamp Club. So the colors that we're going to use here are Mowed Lawn, Peacock Feathers, and the Seedless Preserves. Love this color combination. And what we're going to do with the white base is create kind of a tie-dye background. And when I use these brushes, I grab hold of the handle, but hold the head, and you have good control over that. So don't grab it like this and press. You won't have much control. So hold it right by the head like that. And this does not have to be so perfectly blended. The idea with this is just to put color over the entire surface. Does not have to be perfectly, beautifully blended. So you can see some spots are a little heavier, some spots are a little lighter. On this particular piece, doesn't matter. Mowed lawn, add in some green. You don't want any white spots showing. We just want color over the whole surface. I have never made tie-dye clothing or anything like that, but it sure looks like fun. Add in some peacock feathers, turquoise. That is just one of my absolute favorite colors. And again, I'm being a little heavy-handed with this. I like that richness of a lot of color. And with this particular technique, you want some good color over this whole card. And you'll see why as this comes together. You don't have to blend the edges so perfectly. Again, it doesn't need to be perfectly blended. I just don't want any white spaces, really. And no rhyme or reason for the placement, just put color everywhere. All right, I'm going to close up these inks for now. And next I'm going to give it a shot with my heat tool to dry this ink. That should be fine. And for just a little extra insurance, I have the anti-static powder tool that you want to use when you're embossing. I'm going to just go over the surface with that. You want to make sure this ink is nice and dry. And the card base for this is just this is a 4x6 card. So we have a 4x12 piece of Lagoon and then a white layering piece on that. All right, next we're going to stamp these two butterflies with Versamark ink. And we're going to put clear embossing powder over top. You're going to random stamp these butterflies just all over the surface. Have them go in slightly different directions. You can have them go slightly off of the page just to get that random print. Put a little bit in this corner and a little bit, there's a little blank spot over there. Okay. So I have that stamped with the clear Versamark, and we're going to dump some clear embossing powder over top. Shush it across. Make sure all those butterflies are covered. Alright, I think that looks pretty good. I'll dump this back in the jar. Close it up so there's no accidents. And we're going to heat these up. Just so I don't burn my fingers. And hopefully you can see that the powdery look of the stamped images just melts as it's heated properly. Turns glossy. So as the powder melts, it turns glossy. I do like to use a clothespin so I don't burn my fingers. And you see those glossy images there. So you want to make sure there's no powdery sections. I think I'm going to hit it up another section here just to make sure. Yep. There we go. I just had to get my eyeballs under it to make sure that it was all melted and cool that off. Alrighty, so tie-dye sponging, clear embossing, and the next part, admittedly, is going to be a little scary. So to get it from this look to this look, I think, you know, that looks kind of cool, but, you know, your images are a little bit lost in there. But to really make them pop, you're going to do the scary part, and that is to take the black soot Distress Oxide ink, and we're going to smear it right over the top of this whole surface. I know it sounds a little scary, but stick with me. Hang in there. I know. Ah, black all over the place. I know. I know. Just hang in there. And you can kind of see where I'm going with this. I have a little paper towel to hold on to there. You're going to get inky fingers when you do this. It's part of the fun, you know, but you can help prevent some of that by holding on to the paper towel. All right, smearing this all over. It looks pretty covered. All right, so now's the fun part. You're going to take a paper towel and rub the color off of your embossing. So this is why it's important to really make sure that it melts properly. Look at that, it's popping. I'll bring it up closer to the camera too. When you rub that black ink off of your embossed image, it just really makes it pop. And I think it is super cool. This black soot ink, it looks like a matte finish. It makes it look like a chalkboard. So there it is. It's called the Joseph's Coat technique. All of those beautiful colors shining through. So that's why it really didn't matter how you applied your color in the tie-dye background. Really didn't matter. And I am going to assemble this one because I'm going to show you how the words come on here. Give you a little hint with that. I die cut the word thanks. There it is. So this is just cut like 1/8 of an inch smaller. Okay, so I die cut the thanks out of white and holographic paper. Ooh, so pretty. So we have kind of a shadow effect there. So you're going to glue the white part down first. And because this is just so delicate, I got inky fingers. There's a trick that I saw in watching someone else's blog where they took some liquid glue and just put a blob on the back of your hand, just like that. And then just tap it. Just tap it on. And this will help prevent getting a lot of glue seeping out where it's not supposed to be. So just tap it, and then it won't get all over the place. And it's so fine and delicate, you know, it's really hard to get in all of those places. But mostly it's not going to ooze glue out all over the place. Alrighty, I'm just going to pop that down. there's no glue seeping out from underneath anywhere. So I like that little trick. And you could do the opposite, where you do put some glue onto the die. So when you have real intricate thin lines, you can apply it right on the die. Now if I just put this right on the card, I'm going to have, you know, big glue squishing out from all over the place. But opposite, you can kind of tap off on your hand some of the excess so that you don't have that all squishing out. So I am going to overlap this with the white showing below. Bring that down a little bit. Alrighty. So it creates a little bit of a shadow effect. I'm just pressing it down with paper towel, and that also helps kind of remove any little bit of glue that might be shining, the glue that's kind of on the shiny part of the holographic paper. Alright, so a little shadow effect there by overlapping that. And the fibers over here, I just went in my stash and pulled out some good old-fashioned fibers from the 90s that we used to play with, right? Do you remember adding fibers onto your cards? I had a drawer full of this stuff. And that's just going to go in a knot. So shop your stash, right? Use up some of that stuff. And then you can trim off any of the extra little ends there. And I love that tie-dye effect. So there you have it. There's your Joseph's coat technique. All right, and lastly, we're going to make a gorgeous stenciled card. So I'm going to introduce our mandala stencil. This is the one that I used. This is in our stencil pack number 1. In the stencil pack, you get 3 sheets. Includes the mandala. It includes hearts. Boy, see if you can see that. There's the hearts. And then this really cool pattern of, they look like maybe big dahlias. Little flower prints there. So we're going to use the mandala. That's my favorite. So you can pick and choose which part of the stencil you want to ink through. And first of all, what we're going to do is take some washi tape in a little loop. And you're going to stick down the piece that you're going to sponge onto. You're going to just stick it down there so it doesn't move away on you. And then I'm going to decide what part of the stencil do I want to show. Do I want it right in the middle? I think I'll do this one right in the middle. And I put some washi tape on the stencil, so now that is stuck down too. And we're going to come back to the ink colors that we used initially, the mustard seed, the spice marmalade, abandoned coral, and seedless preserves. Let me change out my little top. I'll start with the yellow. And this goes quickly and beautifully. They're just so creamy when you use these inks. So pretty. And then a little bit of coral on the outside. And just blend and carry that down into your yellow. Coral next. Oh, that was spice marmalade that I just used. This is coral. I'm doing little circular movements too. I'm not rubbing back and forth very hard. You gotta watch those little curly cues that they don't scrunch up on you. And then lastly, the seedless preserves on the outer edges there. So this looks gorgeous no matter how you place your colors, no matter what part of the stencil that you use. Oh, when you remove the stencil, it looks like a magic trick. It's like, wow, this great reveal. So these stencils impressed me that they are 12 by 12. They're huge. So you can do entire scrapbook pages, decorate your own pages, cut them down smaller. That looks gorgeous just as it is right there, huh? All right, so here's the reveal. Let's lift the stencil off. Wow! Gorgeous! Love it, love it, love it. Wowza. So here was my sample. I put the center of it down so it kind of comes out like a, I don't know, like a starburst thing. And I put it right in the middle. And then I did the yellow going up to the purple. This one, the yellow in the middle, purple going out. Gorgeous! Beautiful. No matter which way you do it, it looks absolutely fabulous. So more bracket thin cuts. I did white here and vellum with the larger piece, and they have those stitch lines. Super cute. So we're going to stamp Good Vibes and this little flower thingy with the seedless preserves. Good Vibes. Whoops. All right, guess what? Side 2, flip it over. Even with the stitch lines, it works. I just needed a little bit more pressure on one half of that stamp. Alrighty. And we're only going to use about 2/3 of that, so I stamped it off to the side on purpose. Glue this down to the card base. Again, this is another 4x6 card. That washi tape really comes in handy in anchoring down your paper so the stencil doesn't move and your card base doesn't move. Really works great. All right, so this is going to get glued off to the side. So we're going to cut off about 1/3. And I'm only putting glue where the white cardstock is so the glue doesn't show through the vellum. You can put it in the middle. I like it kind of up towards the top there. And that looks good right about there. So I love, this is a good idea. A couple of these ideas I got from a fellow consultant, Lisa Stintz. She had some beautiful, clever ideas using these Distress Oxide inks. So I thank her for those examples. And lastly, here's a little bit of, again, shop your stash, some organza ribbon that I've had for years and years. And we're just going to tie that in a knot around the fold. Trim off the ends. Slide that over. There we go. And you can shimmy it down if you don't want that right at the top. I kind of liked it up there. There you go. So I hope you like these ideas. So you had your sunset masking the moon, and then ink blending on the watercolor cardstock. And then the Joseph's coat technique where you tie-dye the background, clear emboss, rub black all over it, and then rub the black off of your embossed image, and then sponging through a stencil. Gorgeous. So thanks for joining me, guys. I hope you feel inspired. Happy crafting. Bye.